man.
Hey.
Welcome to episode 4 of Dare Ye Enter the Goblin Cave.
Yes.
I, as always, am your host, Gavin, and today I have with me my friend.
Hello, I'm Gecko. I'm his friend.
Yes, we met on Discord for the game Mud and Blood. Shout out to Herb over there.
Yes.
I have a lot of fun with it. I've been playing that since I was like a little kid, actually.
Same thing. I discovered this when I was way too young to play this because Flash games don't have a PEGI age limit on them. So
Yeah.
I did not stop since then. So it's all good.
It's always been like something I'd like kind of do in the background, you know? And it's a really fun game. I've recently found myself getting to about wave 100 on the usual.
Yes. I rarely go that far simply because I don't play seriously. I'm more about doing the stupid stuff ever. Spam Frenchies, try to have tanks only. Useless stuff, but it's fun.
No, I get it. I discovered a strategy recently that I've had a lot of fun with. You just spawn jeeps from the get-go. You do you start with 12 tactical points, you buy 2 jeeps, and you just run forward, and you take as much land as possible. That's a fun way to do it.
I usually keep the first 4 men to do that, and I just stop once. Usually I just keep one alive, and at that point I stop. Because you have to find a way to curb that 6-man rule. Yes.
I found you on the Discord. I ended up posting that on the self-made stories tag that I got this podcast. You hit me up. You said it was something you wanted to take part in. And here we are, so many weeks later. We both have stories with prompts brought to us by you, my French friend.
Yes, it is lizards and existential crisis. My English is
Yes. No, it's all good. Your English is impeccable. It's all good. I have a cold, so I'm not going to sound very good in this recording. Anyways, lizards. Can I talk to you about that really quick?
Yes.
So I'm noticing a lot of your screen names tend to be lizards. Your prompt tends to be a lizard, or is a lizard. And, are you a lizard?
Officially no. But I'm actually a reptilian. I'm part of the Illuminati. I try to invade the world. We should not talk about this. I just love lizards.
Oh, that's fair enough. I completely... I get it, man. I get it. I used to have like a few lizards. Do you own any lizards currently?
No. Firstly, because I don't have the chance yet to live in my own house. And anyway, I would not right now. Because it's... I could not live thinking that I would have, how to say, sad or hurt animals, lizards or anything else. And taking care of lizards, it's hard, man. Now you gotta
yes, sir.
You gotta keep them warm, you gotta keep them well fed, but it's really the right things because you've got so many lizard species. I had an uncle that came back from I think it was Saudi Arabia, and he bring back a chameleon and explained it to me, and it's so much stuff to do. I don't think I can do that personally.
Hey, fair enough. I believe that one day you will become a proud lizard owner, and yeah, just not to spoil anything, but I've eaten mealworms before, and they're not half bad. So, okay.
Okay.
So, in this podcast, as always, the way this is going to work out is we have our 2 prompts, lizards and existential crises, brought to us, of course, by you, my Lizard King friend.
Yes.
And we have written several 1,000-word stories based around this. The idea was to try to hit around 2,000. I think we both overshot that, which I think is cool. And again, we're keeping it nice, loosey-goosey, not too serious. Let's just try to have a good time. Do you want to roll dice, see which one of us goes first, or do you want to take the reins?
As you wish. I don't have any preference.
Alright, let's flip a coin. Heads I go first, tails you go first, yeah?
Okay, dokie.
Alright, I guess I'm going first.
Let's go then.
Yes, sir, let's do this. Alright, this is the part where we'd sub in the transition music.
Yes, the group.
Which...
I love it.
Right? It's a pretty good track.
It sounds so metal.
Yeah, right? Alrighty, so the story that I'm bringing to you today is called The Wanderer of Mortalis.
Whoa.
Yes. As you may well know by now, ghosts, ghasts, specters, and spirits in general are largely the purview of gods, demons, and the odd necromancer here or there. A mortal has a say in where their soul goes when they die, but only as so far as their actions may sway those aforementioned entities' feelings towards they themselves. Do we really own our souls? Or do we merely influence them on their journey to one god's domain or another's, you may ask? A hard question to answer from our view in the mortal world. So let us cross the veil. Begone, ye blinding curtain of mortality! Obnexalia, Drath, O, and Nu, behold the realm of the dead. Now to your mortal eyes it may appear as if a thin, shimmering green fog hath settled over all. The second sun is far larger than the one you knew it to be. Perhaps it too is a ghost of a star from eons past. No matter. Here is known as the Beyond, Mortalis, the Dead Realm, and by a select few, Bone Town.
The Bone Zone. There it is.
The Bone Zone, yes sir. Here, where the trees are withered and blackened with age, where the mountains are made of fine sand, where the oceans are but hard, flat surfaces of salt, where monuments of ivory bone dot the shattered landscape, vandalized and bespeckled with rotten blood. It is here where the souls of men go after death, and where their greatest trials do begin. Hiding like the craven beast he is, in a cave carved out of jagged sandstone, is a lone spirit. He appears to be the same as any mortal, weak and unimpressive, save for the ethereal glowing eyes that hint at a measure of intelligence and worth buried somewhere within all that meat. By all accounts, a typical specimen of Mortalis. Though he lives life, or unlife, that is, as something of an exile, he hasn't seen another soul in hundreds of years. Like all spirits here, he does not need to eat, or sleep, or to breathe air, or to quench his thirst with water. Like the other needs of a mortal, sun, and even shelter are non-essential to him. Yet here, in this sun-bleached valley, he has carved out a crude mockery of life in the naive hopes that his psyche might survive the erosions of the eons. He hoped dearly that he might never forget what he lived for, what he held dear in life. He lived so very deeply inside this cavern, far, far beyond the massive fang-like stalactites and through thousands of feet of twisting, dark, echoing corridors. Nestled like a rat in a small pocket of rock, far colder than the sun-blasted hellscape above, he lived amongst the bugs, stupid, basic creatures whose constant chittering and clamorous clicking would drive all but the most mad away. Grotesque creatures who subsisted off of runoff from the river of blood and the various fungi grown within the cavern's moist walls. These horrible beasts, some fist-sized, furry, and pungent, not suitable for much more than kicking down the deep wells. Some, however, were brutal and effective killers. These were massive creatures, long and well-armored bodies protected by glistening plates of chitin. They held concealed, tight to their forms, powerful forelimbs that could flash out and gore their prey. These beasts were nearly silent as they stalked these halls, keeping all but the most suicidal at bay. This lone spirit, this ghost of a man, be it out of madness or some other mortal affliction, quite liked the neighbors, and would often corner them to have rather one-sided conversations. Or he would scavenge the dead, picking apart their corpses, whipping rotting organs away from otherwise pristine bone and chitin. He would mutter to himself, like any other mortal would when selecting which loaf of bread you would want from the store, weighing the prices, testing their rigidity. His goal, of course, was to make contraptions out of the chitin and hollow limbs. For example, this past decade, he has gotten pretty good at the centipede leg flute. He had always wished to settle down in life, to become a carpenter. This whole experience to him was a bit cathartic. But as is the nature of man, he would seek a challenge. He walked and stalked the halls, twiddling his fingers, always trying to keep busy and kill time, an action he at this point had become quite well practiced at, yet still gave off the mannerisms similar to anyone waiting for an important phone call or meeting to come up at any moment. He was cold-chilling at the mouth of the cave, catching some rays and passively admiring the serene skyline. He wore a scare-back, wide-brimmed hat, and was sipping a nasty Sol Mosquito Iker margarita out of a stone goblet, one he had spent many months carving out with improper tools. He missed the fruity cocktails from life. And once you got used to the taste of bug, his Sol Mosquito Bev had quite a mojito-esque aftertaste. As per usual, he did catch a glimpse of something odd. 'Twas not the floating fortress known as the Ark. 'Twas not the black skull-shaped clouds that served as necromancer's hands reaching greedily into this realm. 'Twas a dragon. Curious creatures, the ones too weak, too misshapen, or too sickly to cut it in life, often are sent here to gain their strength, or more often, spell power, by devouring wayward souls until strong enough to re-enter Dracus proper and do whatever it was that dragons did. This particular dragon had been circling overhead for weeks now, scanning the landscape for a place to roost. I forgot to name him. Okay. Protagonist liked to look at this lopsided... I can't do this. I can't do this with his name like that. I'm gonna name him on the fly. Alright. What's this ghost's name? Can you give me a name?
Frankie.
Frankie. Frankie, that's his nickname.
Oh, Frank.
Frank liked to look at the lopsided and malformed form, for it was interesting and unique. A work of admittedly ugly art in an otherwise unremarkable skyline. However, Frank really wished it would leave him alone, as it would interrupt his sunbathing whenever it got too close. Frank couldn't risk being spotted and subsequently re-killed after all. This day, the dragon had disappeared over the Bone Gorge, far beyond Frank's view. The one sun was still high in the sky, while the other was beginning to set and the insects were chirping away. Frank was excited to hunt as usual. The bugs that came out to enjoy the low light were often a challenge to him. Their senses were honed and their limbs were quick to react. It was a game of patience and stealth he would soon get to play. This was a ritual he reveled in, for he was a fighter in life, albeit not a bug fighter. This ritual of his would make sure that he never truly forgot his past. As he did every season, he donned his carapace armor, shells of beetles large and small, dotted with carefully drilled holes and laced with stringy, salty sinew, tied against his body, minimizing the noise that it made. Each plate had been carefully worn down to fit his exact proportions, creating what was ultimately a fragile suit, yet one that allowed the claws and tentacles of the river beasts to slide off with ease. Even the wind could hardly slow him down in his ugly, ugly suit of armor. His weapon was simply a branch of petrified wood, heavy for its size, with a rough and deep red stone head making this some sort of hammer or maul. He still wore his sombrero of sorts, which was one of his most prized possessions, as he would tie small shiny stones, interesting finds, or minuscule trophies from hard-fought battles to the sinew tassels that hung all around the brim. Everything he owned was made by his hands, and it showed, as there was personality carved in every single inch of material, and even drawn into the very walls of the valley itself. He thoroughly believed that it was man's obligation to give this sort of life to his environment. Not to dominate nature, no, that was far beyond his ken and desire, but to elevate, to arouse a sense of soul into the very sand beneath his sandaled feet. He licked his lips to prepare for what would surely be a delicious and well-earned meal. If only he knew how wrong he'd be.
Uh-oh.
For beyond his field of view, as his eyes were glued to the valley near the river, where the blood crabs would soon come skittering out of their hiding spots. From on high, behind him, a piercing screech tore the silence asunder. A harsh, uneven, crackling screech from impotent and malformed lungs caused him to shiver for a moment. His face twisted in disgust, for the serene silence he had grown so very accustomed to was ripped away by this downright awful noise. Offended beyond reason, he turned back to face whatever wretched beast created this abomination of sound, only to see the soul dragon once more. Closer than ever before, its hideous figure caused his stomach to churn. The exposed muscles and black, rotten bone, veins throbbing all over its reptilian figure, its short, stumpy legs and skinny body held aloft by some relatively well-developed wings. The whole beast seemed somehow damaged on the left side, and its arm curled in and tucked towards its torso. Its left wing struggled to keep pace with the right. It fluttered, unevenly, overhead, eyeing the entrance to Frank's home. Frank said nothing, wishing sincerely to let out an exasperated fuck, or perhaps to retch. But he knew now was not the time. Now he must analyze. Frank knew that with no skin, it was looking for shade, to protect its soft, exposed meat and veins from dragging across the desolate and downright hazardous landscape. But Frank noticed something that sent his mind spiraling. The dragon, clutched in one of its stumpy legs. A fellow spirit, laying limp in its clawed grasp. The man, the spirit, was well done. Skin charred black and crackling all over. As the dragon flapped its gargantuan wings, the spirit's flesh peeled and flaked away. Frank did not want to end up scorched, so he took to the sand and waited for the situation to change. A game of patience and stealth, just not as he had hoped. He could theoretically wait here for as long as it took the dragon to consume its meal, grow skin and scales, and finally leave the realm. But Frank was not about to let the first human he'd seen in millennia just died as a punk-ass, lopsided-ass reject dragon.
Poor guy.
But how much really was he willing to sacrifice for this perfect stranger? He had spent so very long in this valley, etching out his existence, the evidence of which was his masterpiece. Would he risk its destruction? Would he risk his own unlife? His memories, his time, his hopes, his aspirations, and above all else, his sacred and imperative mission? No. Nobody who knew him, and most certainly nobody who knew the importance of his grand burden, nobody alive or dead could command him to risk that, to throw it all away for some unlucky, charred stranger. And if somehow he could go toe-to-toe with a dragon in the dark tunnels below and come out on top, who's to say that would even be a good thing? Judging by the blisters and sunburns on that beast's back, this was the only home it's known for quite some time. Was he cold-blooded enough to harm this dragon, this beast, who certainly would not have chosen this life if it had been granted better genetics? He gritted his teeth, he clutched his hammer, and as the dragon slithered into his rock home, he made a move for the entrance. If nothing else, this was his home. In life it may have been different, but in here he would not let his home so easily slip away. The darkness of the cavern, something that took even him a moment to get used to. Perhaps it was something about this realm that made it swirl, almost howl, when you peered into its seemingly endless depths. Though, of course, having spent maybe 1,000 years, he had most of the corridors memorized. He even took to laying smooth, cold river stones into the permanent carpet of sticky, squelching fungus so that he might always find his way. The damn beast was quick. Its skinny, misshapen form somehow lent itself to this tight environment. It slithered with ease down the corridors. It soon became overwhelmed by the relaxation it felt, by how rejuvenating the cold cavern air felt on its horribly blistered and sunburnt body. The beast knew it wanted to spend quite some time here, but first it had to know if the cavern was truly safe to rest in. Its paranoia of the unknown was a result of its own weakness. It knew and understood what it could become if it were stronger. It just had to get there. And in the meantime, it could risk nothing. The beast too had dreams. Dreams of conquest, of power. It had ambition to match even the most bloodthirsty of human tyrants. And here at the cusp of realizing its dreams, it was invigorated. This meal, this well-done spirit, would be the first of many. Eaten here in the secluded darkness, the dragon would heal its wounds and disfigurements, and in only a few hundred short years finally re-enter the world of Dracus, hardened by the fires of Mortalis, stronger, healthier, and wiser than before. The anticipation made it salivate uncontrollably. Its nose was of no use here. The fire, the crisp aroma of the finely charred soul meat, was too tempting, was too mouth-wateringly powerful to focus on anything else. Its stomach howled and begged for nourishment, when its mind cooed and comforted, saying, "Soon, soon, we mustn't forget our manners. Must find if anyone else is home." Frank was losing ground. The beast was quick, but he knew the shortcuts and decided an ambush would be in order. He racked his mind for what to do next, and soon found the answer good enough to his tastes. He headed to the coolest, breeziest room in the cave, his own living quarters. A tightly packed and eerily lit cave home, glowing fungus strewn around his workstation, prototypes and working documents plastered all over the walls. Designs for tools, diary entries, scattered memories from long, long ago, and etched into the ceiling above his meditation spot was a grand symbol, one that matched the brand on his arm, a relic if ever there was one. He grabbed what he needed most and turned to face the door. From down the hall he could hear it now, the rush of wind left in the dragon's wake. He thanked it, under his breath, for taking the long way home. Following the breeze would normally add an hour or two to the commute and lead through the whistling part of the cave. Not very time efficient, but the scenic route was fun. Wasting no time to check corners, focused on finding just the coolest spot in the cave, the dragon slithered into Frank's abode. It rushed past him, and from his hiding spot, behind the worn desk, he could feel the blistering heat from the Mortalis sun still radiating forth from the dragon's blistered back, only a few feet away. Finally, the dragon thought, its enduring hunger would be sated. Its quest towards leaving this hellscape would be underway. The dragon showed little emotion, but that's just how reptiles do. It laid its meal out and craned its neck, rolling its shoulders. When from the workbench, Frank tosses a stone tool, a rough implement made from coarse bone and sandstone. It scattered off the dragon's blistered and burnt back, causing immense pain but no real damage. The dragon responds in kind, pain and hunger sending it immediately into a rage. It grasps its dinner tight in its right claw and sets the room alight with dragon fire. Frank, however, was halfway out the door already, and his chitinous armor insulated him from what little sparks would have singed him. Honestly, the fire hurt the dragon's exposed flesh more than the stone throne. The dragon whipped around and shot after Frank, hissing and foaming at the mouth with rage, who, unfortunately for the beast, tucked into the corridors too small to squeeze through, and reappeared at his flank in a few minutes. The dragon would shoot fire when he could, but it was exhausted. Its fuel reserves were running low, and indeed, it needed to feed. And soon. It shrieked, in its harsh dragon tongue, hurling vicious obscenities in its strange language. It roared and followed where it saw the spirit last, trying angrily to burrow in between the rocks, trying in vain to wedge itself all the way through this mountain of sandstone and end this demented game of whack-a-mole. The damn wily ghost was right there, just barely out of reach, taunting the dragon, smiling with its stupid monkey mouth, and holding that weird stick above its head. The beast, staring at its cornered prey, confidence swelling, went for one last fireball. But something about being squeezed like this, or perhaps just not having anything left in the tank, only pitiful sparklers worth of heat were released. Its stream of snapping, popping fire was cut off by the fall of the hammer. The wet crunch of 1,000 eggs cracking at once ended the dragon. The cavern was filling with smoke and heat. All his possessions, his written thoughts, things he had spent hundreds if not thousands of years working on, were gone, their toxic fumes now filling the cavern. He dared not try to put out the flames, as dragonfire would permanently kill the soul. So he hoisted the unconscious spirit over his shoulder and exited the cave, taking, of course, the scenic route, for what he did not know would be a final time. He drops Crispy onto his front porch and sits back with his bug husk lawn chair, hoping to finish his now lukewarm drink. After some time, the charred man stirs and groggily looks around. He speaks through cracked and broken lips. "Hey, did you, see a dragon anywhere?" His skin crackled as he brought his palms to his face and began to sit upright. In his first encounter with another sentient being in over 140 years, Frank simply grunted in the affirmative, and after a moment paused and said, "Dead now." The charred ghost began slowly, "Man, fuck you. He was gonna kill me." Frank responded, simply, "Yes." "Psh, man, I've been trying to die for 1,000 years, and I finally get a lucky pick, and you ruined it. Thanks a lot, asshole." The dragon food ghost spoke, getting back up to its feet and staring daggers at Frank. Frank responds, "What?" "You heard me. You ruined my millennium," the charred ghost sulks. "What?" "'Cause it's damn pointless to keep going, that's what," the charred ghost almost pled to Frank. Heaven and Valhalla are basically full at this point. Even the 69 hells are packed tighter than the doorway out of your mom's house the morning after everyone wakes up. Frank hesitantly responded with an uncomprehending and underwhelming, "Oh." "Oh is right, fuckface," the charred ghost spat, the little flesh he still had left crunching with anger. "Have you been living under a rock or something? Why are you so slow in the uptake?" "Yes," Frank spoke, gruff as stone, gesturing towards his smoldering rock home. "Right. Well, you owe me a permanent death. I do it myself, but you know it doesn't stick when we do it. It's gotta be a god, demon, necromancer, or soul predator. And of course, the first two are too busy / don't care, and the last two are kinda rare. And, getting killed by cave psychos like you." Frank thought for a moment. He did not look away, he did not tilt his head, he merely squinted and paused, and said, "No." "Fuck you, man, you owe me. At least you could take me back to the Desert of Sorrow, where I can bask where I'm easy pickings." Frank looks back at his smoldering rock home, his eyes fill with understanding. He too would wish to be home right now. It was the least he can do to escort this terribly lonely soul to its home. And after a short period of mourning his home, he spoke once more. "Okay." Charbroil, not really knowing what sort of reaction he expected to hear, but was still wanting to feel the moral high of righteous indignation, took a brief moment to get the words out. "Well, what are you gonna do? Fly me back? A dragon or something?" "Walk." Frank points to the east. "You're off by a couple of degrees, caveman," Charbroil interjects, and rudely points to the correct direction. Frank grunts, and they prepare their journey. Alright, that's the end of my story.
Okay. That was I love this scenery. The place, Mortalis. The description, the everything. It's really I really like the let's say, I mean, the word I had was aesthetics, but it's not even this because it's a story, but like I cannot picture some sort of
you could say
some sort of black desert with like everything is like black and white and it's burning. I do like this. It's some kind of slick hell, I would say.
Yeah, it's definitely a kind of hell. I like it.
It's pretty cool. So I kind of like Frank. He's a man of a few words.
Very few words. He kind of grunts a lot. I mean, it's been like 140 years since he's talked to anyone besides a bug, you know?
Yeah.
So, but he's going to get a lot cooler. Actually, I have a lot of different chapters for this story,
Ooh.
sort of like written out. So,
Hey,
this is turning into a long one.
perhaps
Anyways,
he could become friends with Charboy. Who knows?
yeah, I realized I also didn't give either of the spirits a name this story. So you named Frank in the middle, and then there's the crispy spirit who I just referred to as Charbroil. But you know he doesn't have a name yet either. I'm terrible at naming things. Anyways,
So
here's some more transition music.
okay.
Let's cut over to your story next.
Right, let's go.
All right, man, let's go. What you got?
Okay, so my story is named Kill King. Contrary to what you would expect, it's not a reference to Kill Bill. The whole story is a James Bond parody, actually. So wrong movie, but
I dig it. Let's go.
let's go. Earth, in the far future, the age of man is long gone. After the downfall of the Homo sapiens comes the Lepidosauria bellator, more commonly referred as simply lizards. Here, we are talking about 2-meter tall reptiles standing on their hind legs, although a little bit hunched forward, and with human-like intelligence. That would have been great if they did not erase humanity the moment a bunch of scientists decided to create them. But hey, that's how life goes. Not everything is perfect. Plus, that was tens of thousands of years ago, so we can forget about this. No biggie.
Yeah, who cares, right?
Through the
I'm a little salty. I think they should have kept a few of us as pets, you know? Like we kept them as pets. They should keep us as pets. It's fair.
Through their existence, lizards have been known for one thing and one thing only: war. Now, of course, they could do many other things, like creating fully functional societies, achieve very advanced levels of technology, not so far from humanity at its peak, get into philosophy, arts, lots of things, but all of that was made in service to war. War was the reason to live for lizards, something hidden deep inside their mind, pushed every single one of them to desire conflict, and ultimately victory. It was as if they were made for this. Each fight, each battle, brings the rush of dopamine inside their mind, and peace, for peace's sake, could easily make them depressed to the highest degree. This led to the creation of a society hell-bent on glory and combat, a system perfectly engineered to get the most wars without going too far and provoke self-destruction. And of all the glorious figures that filled desert history stood the victorious, the king. His real name was forgotten. His title was his only identity. 2 years ago, just 2 years ago, he emerged from nothing, inheriting a piece of land from his father and a bunch of hungry workers and peasants. Vassal to a more powerful warlord, the king, thanks to his incredible charisma, unique skills as a fighter, and his unbeatable strategies, ascended rank after rank, taking more and more land, gaining more strength every day, until the year 9999 of the fire calendar. Before him stood only one enemy, and behind that enemy, victory, the ultimate one. After 2 years only, the king had rallied under his banner the entire northern half of the world. Under his command was 1 billion men, millions of cannons, vehicles and aircraft, each crafted with utmost skill and devotion from a workforce that eagerly dedicated their talents to create the most powerful engines of destruction. Before him, the entire southern hemisphere had united to face this threatening king. None knew when exactly, but all lizards expected it. Soon, the last and greatest battle the lizards ever knew would come. For a week now, the king's army had been waiting at the border, ready for the final battle. What people had planned to be the greatest war the world ever saw, a fight of epic scale, of apocalyptic consequences, the most glorious event history would ever know. Billions will have the occasion to prove themselves as being the greatest warriors the world ever knew, or at worst, die a glorious death. But Zazush...
Hang on.
Yes.
Hang on. A battle of epic scale?
Ah,
I caught that pun. That was really good.
I didn't even notice it, but hey, it's copyrighted now. I claim it.
Yeah, you got it, man.
Okay.
It's set in stone.
But Zazush was not part of them. Zazush was a 32-year-old lizard, or in human age, 48. He was an expert fighter, although a bit too old for the unrelenting hell of the battlefield. That didn't mean he was useless, though, for his talent, experience, and intelligence had him become one of the best assets the Royal Secret Services, or RSS for short, ever had. His dossier was the best, and he took pride in it, pride in his 128 officially recognized missions, each and every one of them a success. He was so proud, in fact, that this became his number one priority: keep his dossier clean from any kind of failure. His mission today was the most important he ever had, and the craziest. His mission was to kill none other than the king himself. Kill him before it was too late.
Oh shit.
For the king, in bringing the ultimate victory, would bring the downfall of lizard kind. Lizard condition was a paradox in itself. A lizard needed an enemy, conflict, to live happily, just as life needed death to have worth. If the king was to win, he would take the entire world. If the entire world would be taken, there would be no more enemies. Without enemies, no wars. And without wars, excruciating peace would spread to lizard society. The kind that could bring an end to lizard
I like it.
The kind that could bring an end to lizard civilization as we know it. Not in a loud bang, but in a slow, sad agony. Not much glory in that. The sun had set long ago, the forest was dark, and it would be silent if not for the sound of a roaring car engine. Zazush was late, purposefully. One would believe a secret agent on his way to murder the world's most popular figure and leader of half of the world would try to be discreet on his way, but not Zazush. If anything, no one would expect a murderer to come by, the engine of his unique car, roaring, light at the party, drawing everyone's eyes. Perfect cover.
Yeah.
Eventually, the king's home, the castle, came to view. The castle, that's how the people named it, even though it lacked any kind of fortification. It was closer to a palace lost in the forest, a marvel of architecture. Well, a marvel. By lizard standard. For lizard architecture was incredibly bland and quite utilitarian. It didn't take...
I imagine there's a lot of sun rocks and balconies to sunbathe on.
So that's a good question. Actually not. I had planned to add a detail about this, but I didn't have room in the story to put that in. Maybe in a follow-up.
Fair enough.
It didn't take long for the valet to rush at Zazush, as soon as the agent stopped his car and set foot on the ground, in fact. Before him was a familiar face, a long, slim snout, reddish scales, large staring eyes, and wide cobra hood. His name was Gaska, another agent from the RSS, master of disguise with quite a lot of tricks up his sleeve. May I have your keys, sir? He asked, showing an unsettling carnivorous smile. Of course. Just don't you dare scratch the pants, or I'll scratch your scales off instead. Threats against the personnel are a punishable offense, sir. You are not part of the personnel, Gaska, Zajush said, winking before leaving his colleague with the vehicle. This didn't sound good, though. Back up, Didn't the RSS believe in his abilities? Or was there something else? Nevertheless, he will not prevent anyone from stealing his kill. He will not let anyone mess up his perfect dossier. The castle was huge and crowded, but finding the king himself could not be that hard, right? As soon as he reached the building, a waiter came to him, the same smug smirk on his face as the valets. "May I see your invitations, sir?" "Of course, here it is," Cyrus said, and he gave him his government-mandated false invitation. 2 minutes to change uniform and get right here before me. You improved, didn't you, Gazka? I don't understand, sir. I don't know what you're talking about. Sure, whatever. Keep role-playing, do what you want, he said as his colleague handed him back the invitation. In truth, Zazuch wasn't into subtlety, disguises and covers. That was not for him. Much to Gazka's dismay. At least you did not miss the main event. Our Lord himself is to start his speech in 10 minutes. Feel free to enjoy your staff services until then. And with a nod, Zazuch went for the ballroom. Smooth music was playing, the kind you would expect from an elevator, but the agent didn't mind as long as it wasn't something fucked up like kawaii metal or something like that. The room was filled with a mix of aristocrats and generals, polar opposites that tried to not look too awkward when near each other. Hopefully for Zazuch, his training as an RSS agent had him ready for anything, even talking with pampered noble with no knowledge of combat other than the romanticized version given in books, just to barely feed their natural lizard lust for blood. Speaking of which, as Zazuch went for the bar counter and sat on an overly comfy stool, staring at the empty stage, waiting patiently for his target to appear, someone sat by him, back resting against the counter, not even looking at the agent. Crazy time, isn't it? The newcomer asked. Lizard males and females weren't very different, physically speaking, other than what they had between their legs, of course, which would often lead to confusion when meeting new people. Thus, it wasn't until the newcomer spoke with a light, although raspy voice, that Zazuch realized he was facing a female, which had him just a tiny bit more interested in seeing who his interlocutor was. By his side was a black-scaled, slim she-lizard, wrapped in an elegant suit, equally black, save for her left sleeve of vibrant red, and a pristine white cape, sign of power, the kind of power someone is born with, not the one you earn. Crazy? Crazy?
Weakness.
Zazuch answered. We are winning. Winning is not that crazy. It even became an unbreakable habit since the king arrived. As he spoke, he ordered his favorite drink, a vodka martini, specialty from the Eastern Island, and something no one else actually liked, other than him. In truth, he continued, trying to take the OTS tone he could to try to fit in with the nobles. It gets almost boring. Oh, you believe so? That's not what I meant. I meant what was to come. Soon, there will be nothing to win anymore. As she spoke, her voice got sort of suggestive, as if there was something she was intending. That wasn't the same suggestive tone he would hear from females trying to hit on him. Something else. It was something almost professional. Was she talking really about politics? A noble? No way. Plus, politics and wars were fun, but they were everything but sexy, at least to Zazuch. No, that suggestive tone was everything but a female trying to hit on him. Too sad for him. Elaborate, simply answered the agent as he took a sip in his drink. Soon, the final battle will begin. The North will throw everything it has, and the South will do as well, but we'll know how this will end. We will win. Yes, the North will win. The king will win, we will win, everyone will win. Even the South, we will have the privilege of witnessing the greatest battle that ever existed, and then nothing. For we will reach our goal, we'll have nothing to do, and we will all die. Zazuch blinked silently. That's not right. Or rather, that was right. She was right. What she talked about. This was the very reason of his presence here. But, hearing this from a noble, that was wrong. The king was a smart man. His entourage was controlled well enough, and noble in his court were adoring fans. It wasn't hard to see the nobles that showed themselves too rebellious, to get evicted from the court and sent to pitifully poor properties and lands, usually next to strong military garrisons, just in case. This family's word could easily be considered treason, for even if they were right, she just announced that the Lord would bring their downfall. Her Lord, was she even a noble? Those are bold claims, said Zazush. Don't you think the king, in his grace and intelligence, will find a way out of this problem? And wait, what are you even doing here? He let out, trying to do his best impersonation of an outraged noble. The female shrugged, before turning her head aside and staring at the agent for the first time. Now, beauty canons in lizard society are obviously quite different from human ones, and what one could see as disgusting would be beautiful to the other. The she-lizard's right side of her face, the one he did not see until now, had been ravaged. Thick scratch marks had been dug deep in her scales, leaving her right eye damaged, yet whole, as if covered in a dark veil. No, that, to Zazush, that was his kind of woman. Oh, friend, you don't know how bold I am, but perhaps you may see soon, she let out, licking her lips before turning her back as the lights turned off. It was time. Whatever funny ideas Zazush had about that lady, he quickly shook them off and focused on this mission. Soon, everything would be over. As the curtain on the stage moved aside, the agent slowly slid his hand to the inner pockets of his jacket, grabbing the grip of his hidden revolver. Like a predator stalking his prey, his focus devoted itself completely to his future target. Only, the target was not here. There was nothing on the stage. No one. That is, until a sort of large screen raised from the ground, turning itself on automatically, at the same time revealing the figure of the king, hidden in the shadows, the only source of light being a strong electric torch shining in his back. His voice suddenly resonated through the whole room. Dear citizen of the North, he said. No. Dear Lizardkin, for this recording is to be transmitted everywhere, even in the South. I have dedicated my life to victory, or rather, to the joy it will bring. I have spent my entire existence to spread the ecstasy of a hard-fought win, or at least the glorious rage that pushes us to win, the very reason us lizards live for. But in my search for victory, all I did was bring us to the ultimate defeat, the worst that we could expect. The end of all wars. The ultimate victory that will kill us all.
Shit, he's self-aware.
Yes. That is why, he said, leaving a long silence run before finally opening his mouth. I shall disappear. The throne shall be free, and the power vacuum that such an act will bring will be so strong this will divide the entire North, just as it was before my arrival, as it was always meant to be. As for the South, without me, without a common enemy, the United Lords will no longer have a reason to oppose me. Thus, they shall divide and fight as well. It is with a heavy heart that I shall say the next word, but I rest happy, for I know that it is the only thing that I could do to ensure Lizard King survives. Farewell. The screen glitched for
Shit, he's actually a good king.
The screen glitched for a second, and the king moved closer to the camera. Now that the public broadcast is over, people of the castle, I have invited you here, for you are the brightest. Enough with the ass-kissers, enough with those born with unearned glory and power. You have all been deemed powerful enough to be the new leaders of the North. What you will lead, who you will lead, or even if you will lead, I do not know, but you have my encouragement. Do not try to kill each other yet, however, I have not left the throne. The ceremony shall happen tomorrow. And on these words, the screen finally turned off. The lights went back on, and the speakers got back to playing calm, albeit slightly funky music, leaving the guests in confused silence. Ah, fuck me, Zazush whispered. Truth be told, Zazush did not care about the politics. He left that to the higher-ups. What mattered now was that his mission was technically fucked. Or was it? Two options presented themselves to the agent right now. Firstly, he could be a good boy, call it a day and retreat. After all, his mission was to kill the king to prevent him from bringing perpetual peace, but now that the king said he was going to leave, his mission had no longer any sense. But this would mean having a mission compromised, written in red in his dossier, which was a very utilitarian way to say, not that you fucked up, but mission's a failure pile. And this, on his dossier? Are you kidding? Zazush would not let such a thing mess up his streak of 128 victories, and he was ready to do anything to avoid this. Which is why he chose option 2, kill the king anyway. Will he succeed? He will either end up court-martialed because an agent is supposed to abandon his mission in such a situation, or the top brasses could assume that by the time the king announcement was transmitted, Zazush had already killed the king because he was that good, and thus would conclude that the mission was effectively accomplished. Such a thing had a ridiculous chance to happen, but screw this. No one fucks over Zazush's dossier, not even the king himself. Growling quietly, the agent left his stool. The female from earlier was nowhere to be seen, although he did not even see her leave. Strange. But no matter. He had no time to lose. Before the operation, Zazush had to learn the layout of the whole building. Every path, every corner, every broom closet, they were all imprinted in his memory. The king was to be in his room, just 2 floors above him. There was a corridor, reserved to the service personnel, like waiters and janitors, just by the stage, the door hidden behind a pile of speakers. Perfect. Only by said door was a guard, clad in light armor, a gun by his hip. Good thing it was still the same guy under the clothes. Sorry, sir, but you cannot pass. This is a private area. Fuck off, I'm in a hurry, Zazush growled, passing through the door. Gee, thanks, his colleague muttered. You could at least listen to "Oh, he's gone." While the ballroom had nice red wallpapers with elaborate gilded decoration, beautiful carpets on the floor and gorgeous chandeliers hanging from the ceiling, the rest of the building was nothing like that. Here, natural lizard aesthetics reigned, which meant no aesthetics at all. It was cold, grey, with only variations, number and indications here and there on the walls. As he kept walking, something seemed very wrong. There was no members of staff in sight, no guards. The kitchen was deserted, and it looked like it had been abandoned quite hastily, as if they fled. Why would they, though? Could it be? No. Impossible, he thought. But, as if it was not, the agents went from a fast walk to jogging. Zazush ran up the staircase, only to have a bullet suddenly ricochet by the security rail, making him stop dead in his track and pull out his revolver. By the second stage door, the one he was searching for, stood his aggressor. Her. Well, well, well. What do you have here? She said with a smirk, still aiming her handgun at him. Someone who's short on time, he said before taking another step, only to see the female put her finger on the trigger. Nuh-uh, boy. You're telling me what you're doing here right now. I've put a couple of those guards full of holes already. I can make you next. Who are you? You certainly are not with the king. I am, and I am not. I'm of the Royal Secret Services, he said hesitantly. Name's Zazush. Zazush? Cute. If you are of the SS though, I suppose you are here to stop me. As she spoke, she aimed her gun at the agent's head, only to see him raise his hands. No, wait, no, I'm not. I don't even know who you are, He hesitated, but saying the full truth was probably his best way to not get Swiss cheesed right now. I'm here to stop the king from dooming us all. An awkward silence reigned for what seemed like hours to Zazush, before the female would finally lower her weapon. Good, she said. My name's Jackie. I'm from the United Southern Intelligence. We've got the same mission, so we better get to work together if we want a chance. Considering the amount of guards the king's got, I seriously doubted my chance up to now. He's here? Zazush asked, walking up the stairs and joining Jackie, who would point at the corridor before speaking. The king is not in his room. He's off to the balcony. He's probably going for the helipad. You've been noticed? The northerner asked before getting shushed by her interlocutor. Did you even listen to me when I mentioned putting 2 guards full of holes? Or were you too busy staring at my scars? Anyway, I want you to go all the way through that hallway, then go west. I will take this path here and get directly to the helipad. You will cover me from your own balcony. Understood? Zazush didn't even have the time to nod. She was already gone. Man, oh man. Quite a lady, that Jaggy. She's got the body, the voice, the scars, and even the talent. But now was not the time to fantasize. Now was the time to make sure his dossier would stay clean. The RSS agent swiftly moved to his assigned hallway. As he progressed through the corridor, a ninja chopped an absent-minded guard that was on his way, knocking him out on the spot before picking his compact PGW. Not much, but already better than his 6-shooter. By the next minute, he was on the balcony, ready to fire. From there he could see his target, the king. Contrary to what most would expect, the Lord of the North wasn't a towering mass of muscles. All the opposite, in fact. The king was strangely small, frail, and naturally thin. His focus shifted from the king to Jackie, as he noticed her approaching the balcony. As the sound of an approaching helicopter resonated through the night, time was of the essence. He waved at the southern agent. She nodded and got to work. Out of her suit, Jackie pulled a blinding grenade, biting on the pin, pulling it off, and letting it roll to the crowd of bodyguards that surrounded the card. Grenade! Contact! One shouted, but too late. The grenade released a series of flash, loud detonations replacing the noise of the approaching helicopter. Taking advantage of the stunned guards, Jackie leaped and opened fire. Stop her! Protect the Lord! One of the guards said, raising his weapons only to receive a burst in the back. Gotcha, said Zazush, with a smirk. But the bodyguards were more resilient than expected. They hid behind a stone bench, covering the king as the helicopter finally reached the balcony. Cover me, Zazush! I can't shoot with those guards firing at me! Jackie shouted. The RSS agent aimed carefully, trying to put one of the guards' head in his weapon's sights, only to get suddenly lifted in the air. A strong arm wrapped around his chest, while another got around his neck. Zazush tried to hit whoever was choking him with his elbow, but to no avail. As he felt himself going numb due to the lack of air, he threw one last desperate kick, aiming right between his aggressor's legs. Scummy, but efficient. The guard behind him let go of the agent with a high-pitched scream. But Zazush wasn't safe yet. As he gasped for air and turned around, he was met with a guard's gun pointed at his face. The tough-looking, gutter-like lizard gritting his teeth. Any last words, Fuko? He growled. Zazush smirked for a second before opening his mouth. Yeah, thanks. What? The guards didn't have the time to finish his sentence. Collapsing, revealing behind him the figure of Zazush's slim friend. Zazush, shh! What would you do without me, my friend? Thanks, Gaska. I buy you a drink for that, he said as he picked up his gun, only to see the helicopter take off before his eyes. Zazush! The king's in! Shouted Jackie, as she was still fighting with bodyguards on her balcony. Zazush nodded and raised his gun at the helicopter, focusing as he aimed for the tail. He took a deep breath, closed an eye, and after a last second, pressed the trigger. The helicopter suddenly turned left, the backwater puffing smoke, making the agent grin in satisfaction. No one fucks up my dossier, he let out, before dropping his smile as he realized the helicopter, in its uncontrolled spin, started moving toward them. Oh fuck, oh shit, Gaska, get down! Zazush shouted as he leaped on his friend. As the helicopter rammed the balcony, bursting into a ball of flame before falling down to the ground, taking the castle's entire facade with it, the balcony collapsing down. Zazush slowly opened his eyes, coughing dust as his ears rung, getting up slowly, pushing a pile of bricks that had fallen on top of him. Gaska! He let out, before looking around and spotting his friend's cobra hood sticking out of the debris. Gaska! Shit! Gaska, answer me! He said as he moved to the rebels' side. Gaska coughed a bit, before smiling. Hey, friend, I don't think I'm going to make it. No way, that can't be! Zazush let out. We'll get you out of here. Zazush! I can't feel my legs. Gaska, no! Only, as Zazush was getting desperate, his friend started to laugh. Nah, I'm fucking with you, man, he said before pulling himself out of the rubble. Yeah, screw you. Forget about that drink, Zazush said, staying silent, before, despite his best effort to not do so, starting laughing as well. For a full minute they laughed, before one of them would turn to the helicopter, or what was left of it, more of a hulk of burning, twisted metal than anything else. Whoever was in there, no one could have survived. Zazush looked up, trying to see if Juggy was around there. In vain. Say, Gaska, any idea where that lady went? He asked. Lady? What lady? Gaska asked. Don't tell me you've been trying to hit on some girls on the job again. No, of course not, he said before looking up at the balcony, where she stood, still intact. He saw nothing, although he could have sworn he saw movement. Yeah, whatever. We are done here. Let's go home. And on that, it's finished.
Very
Goddammit,
nice,
I was
man.
losing my voice. I'm starting to lose my voice.
It's all good, me too. But that was a great story.
Thanks.
Right off the top of my head, I love the way you write characters. You know, like they felt like really well-defined characters. They had good speech patterns.
I always try to find like a gimmick to I would say define the characters at first, and then I find I show their actual characters in the at last. But that mostly comes from me. But even in the best, I would say even in the best stories, a character that is like written very nicely, I can't get into it because it doesn't catch my attention as soon as I discover him. So I got this habit of trying to show an interesting quirk or gimmick to pick the interest of everyone.
Yeah.
Then I give off the actual, I would say, mental. So, like, for instance, you got Zazush is like an old agent with his perfect dossier. Gaska keeps hissing, and the girls got the scars, and that's it.
I thought it was really cool. I liked the obsession with the clean and perfect record. That's a very interesting character trait, and it's crazy how much that drove him. I loved it. It was a great story. Had a great time listening to it.
Thanks, man.
Very nice. All right. Well,
we did it.
Yeah, we did it. Congratulations. You survived the Goblin Cave.
I survived my first podcast. Yes.
Oh, you did great. And with that concludes the 4th episode of Dare Ye Enter the Goblin Cave. Again, I was blessed to have my friend Gecko come help me out for this episode, and hopefully I'll see you again. Hopefully I'll have you on again.
And I hope we'll do another one maybe.
Yeah. Alrighty. And with that, let us stop our recordings.